Eggs, something we rarely think twice about until they vanish from store shelves, or cost nearly $7 a dozen. In early 2025, that's exactly what happened across America. Shoppers stood stunned at supermarket aisles. Restaurant chains like a popular breakfast chain began charging 50 cents extra per egg. And online, people were asking, should I just raise chickens myself? But what caused this egg crisis bird flu is part of the story. But it's not the whole story, because behind every scrambled egg and omelet lies a system one that's industrial, concentrated, and surprisingly fragile. Today, we'll take you deep into the poultry farms of America. From the vast duck fields of Indiana, to the turkey barns of Minnesota, to the backyard coops of suburban families. We'll explore the numbers, the people, the risks, and the surprising truth about the future of eggs in America. This isn't just a video about food. It's a story about how we farm, how we adapt, and how even something as small as an egg can reveal cracks in the system we depend on every single day. The system behind the crisis. Let's start with the structure behind America's egg supply. Roughly 380 million laying hens support the country's egg consumption. But here's the kicker: more than 2/3 of those birds are owned by just 20 companies. Think about that. 20 corporations decide how most Americans get their eggs. These are massive operations. Some house over 4 million hens under a single roof. Now, there's no doubt this level of concentration helps with efficiency. Eggs are cheap. They're consistent. They arrive in grocery stores on time most of the time. But when bird flu hits one of these mega facilities, the entire flock is culled. We're talking tens of millions of birds wiped out in weeks. Not because they're all sick, but because one case can shut down a whole farm. It's the classic too many eggs in one basket problem, except this time it's literal. Life on real farms. The view from the ground. Let's leave the spreadsheets and head into the fields. Across the U.S., poultry is raised in a variety of ways. In states like Indiana, Minnesota, and Iowa, you'll find massive duck, turkey, and chicken farms dotting the landscape. Take Tipton County, Indiana, home to duck farms with more than 11 million birds. Some are free-range, allowed to forage on pastures for bugs and seeds. But the vast majority, raised in controlled enclosures, fed pellets, and kept away from the outdoors. It's a similar story in Minnesota, the turkey capital of the U.S. With over 600 active turkey farms, the state produces around 44 million turkeys annually. Most are raised indoors. Only about 7% get access to pastures. Then there's Iowa, king of chickens. More than 61 million chickens live here, with only a fraction raised free range. Most are bred for meat, fed high-protein corn and pea meal, and rotated through a tightly managed growth cycle. These aren't small farms. These are systems optimized for output. But output has a cost confinement stress and vulnerability to disease. The backyard movement. Small but resilient. Now let's shift gears. Not all eggs come from massive barns. In fact, there's a growing number of people, families, small farmers, even urban dwellers, raising chickens in their own backyards. Folks like Tom Richards in Whatcom County, Washington. He raises around 6,000 chickens on just 10 acres. His birds roam pastures with views of snow-capped Mount Baker, scratching for insects and enjoying fresh air. David isn't alone. Across the country, people are building coops, buying feed, and collecting their own eggs. Why? For some, it's food security. For others, it's ethics. And for many, it's simply peace of mind. Are backyard flocks perfect? No. They require time, space, and care. And yes, they're still vulnerable to disease, especially with migratory wild birds flying overhead. But here's the difference. When one backyard flock gets sick, it's a tragedy for a family, not a national crisis. There's a kind of resiliency in smallness, a flexibility that doesn't exist when you've packed 100,000 hens into a windowless warehouse. And in times like these, resiliency might just be more valuable than efficiency. Experts weigh in. A divided perspective. So, are pasture-raised birds really better? It depends on who you ask. Supporters argue that chickens raised outdoors with access to sunlight, space, and natural foraging develop stronger immune systems. Less stress, more movement, fewer outbreaks. They point to farmers like Tom Richards, who's never had a case of bird flu in over 10 years of pasture-based operations. Mark Holloway, a director at A Greener World, says it plainly. Healthier birds come from healthier environments, but not everyone agrees. Dr. Garrison, a poultry science expert from a Northeastern agricultural university, has worked with both backyard coops and factory farms. And he's cautious. In his words, the more birds you spread out, the more chances they'll come into contact with wild waterfowl and with it the virus. He also questions whether small farms can truly meet national demand. We'd need millions of families to collect millions of eggs daily. It's just not scalable. In the end, both sides agree on one thing: industrial poultry operations, while efficient, are brittle. One infected barn can bring down production for an entire region and spike prices for everyone. A fragile system and a way forward. So where does that leave us? Eggs are a symbol. A simple, everyday food, now caught in the crosshairs of global pandemics, industrial concentration, and climate shifts. And while the virus might fade, the cracks in our food system are harder to ignore. Could backyard chickens be part of the solution? Maybe. At the very least, they offer a buffer, a little security, a little independence when shelves go bare. And even if they don't replace industrial farms, they remind us that food doesn't have to come from a factory. It can come from a place with names, not numbers. With coops, not cages. No system is perfect, but resilient systems don't collapse when one part breaks. If we want a food system that feeds us even in hard times, we may need to rethink where our eggs come from. Because sometimes the answer isn't bigger farms. It's more of us becoming farmers, even if it's just 5 hens in the backyard. If you found this story insightful, consider subscribing. We share more real-life food stories from farms, fields, and families every week. Because food isn't just fuel, it's the foundation of everything.